Welcome to the Book Dormer. If this is your first time, thanks for coming. If you've been here before, well, thanks so much for coming back. Hey, it's Michael. Let's talk about what I managed to get through reading-wise in August. So these are the completed works of August 2024. There was a theme this month, and I didn't realize I was doing it. Have you ever just, I was just working on my fantasy bingo board and trying to get things done, and then had a buddy read, and I didn't choose the book for that. Unbeknownst to me, it was going to be all American authors. So all 5 books, counting the audio, are American authors. At least what I completed. There is a Canadian author, but that's a 45-hour-long book, and it's been really hot, so I haven't been outside that much for the audio work. So first book up. Oh, I was so happy when it showed up. Sword of Kaigen. This is the Page and Wick edition. I'm filming this on September 1st. There's actually a Kickstarter in 2 days, kicking off with a Wraithmark doing another version. So Wraithmark really got it going with a big special edition, super awesome Sword of Kaigen. And it took off, and so many people missed it and wanted it that Wraithmark apparently reached out to the people who had pledged. I did not. And reached out to them and asked if they would be okay with a just reissue of it, and it came back, no, they would prefer you do a different edition. So there's a new edition coming out. But this one, check out the beauty. It's such a fun take on Sword of Kaigen. This is a story, kind of interesting. It's kind of broken into 3 parts. First part is the setup. I thought the setup was fantastic, but talking to people online and seeing people on Reddit, apparently some people didn't like, that was their least favorite. It's so much fun that we all have different parts of things we like. I thought the first part, if I break it into 3, was easily 5-star. Love the world building, love the setup, love the premises. I love the juxtapositions. Yeah, it just works for me. Then the middle fight scene is just, oh yeah. If I don't give 6s, because I do a 5-point scale, that would be a 6. This book was fantastic in that. And then the end, for me, was a little long, I think would be how I would say it. It's probably, if it was like 280 pages, I probably would have done it in like 130. But, right, I mean, somebody was exploring themes, and just sometimes like the themes of a mother who's sacrificing her happiness and what she does in exchange to have a family. Okay, I mean, it kind of hits a little differently as somebody who's not a mom. Not that we don't sacrifice as dads, but didn't give up as much as this lady did. Let's talk about these characters. So you got 2 point of view characters through most of the book. You have Mamoru, M-A-M-O-R-U, Mamoru. I'm going to mess up every Japanese phrase. Let's just get that over with right now. Unless it's height or something like, something from an anime where they're shouting. I can do those, but that's about it. He is from the legendary Masada family. The Masada families are the masters of certain type of elemental magic. And they're going to use that magic and they traditionally have used it to defend the Kaigen Empire. Ergo, they are the swords of Kaigen. And they stop the arch nemesis country from coming in. So even if they showed up with hundreds or if they sent regular people, thousands, the swords would come out and they would make their stand and win. Quite confident in their capabilities that they were going to win this. Mamoru's, his uncle and his father are masters of a special technique. Only certain people, even in their family, can do it. Only their family can do it. And he's frustrated. He's not there. But things come easy to him. So some people's complaints on the character is actually what I like about him. Because everything comes easy except the biggest part. So I don't think it actually all comes easy to him. When he ends up meeting a new kid who arrives at the school and gets asked to go around with the new kid, ends up, of course, getting in a fight with the new kid right off the bat, because how dare the kid have different opinions? Because this area of Kaigen is very, very traditional. Like, they are walking up the mountain to go learn sword fighting and different techniques. Meanwhile, this kid, his dad is there installing cell towers. It's such a different gap, right? You've got anything, something that could have fit easily in 1400s. Blacksmith, well, swordsmiths. They kept calling them blacksmiths, swordsmiths. And then you've got this technological difference of the outside world. I love when you get these nice kind of mixes of technology and mixes of culture, especially when it flows. It actually, for me, worked really well. So I like that. The other point of view character is the mother in this story. It's Masaki. Yeah, it should be Masaki. She was a crime fighter, and she actually gave this up and got married into this family with traditional strong family, and she's a great sword fighter herself. The husband is, if there's any phrase I would use, is weak and lacks discipline. Even though he's like super disciplined and super standby, it's like weak in the sense that he didn't want, I don't know, a rival. He didn't want people to think of him differently because he had a wife who was competent, so he told her to just be a wife. Like, forbid her to talk about her past as a crime fighter. And we learned about this crime fighting through a lot of the beginning. And you find that that's really where her life regrets comes in. I mean, this is an adult book. Yes, you got a 14-year-old as one of the main characters. Yes, you have, you know, the classic anime level fight scene that just is super awesome in the middle. It's adult books with adult themes. And it really does click. I mean, this book absolutely clicked for me. I'm feeling tons of sympathy for the mom. I'm feeling the frustration of the kid. Right? As somebody whose kid just turned 15 also, right? I could kind of see this along. It's that as you're building up towards adulthood, there's still these conflicts, and there's still, you know, parents acting in different ways. The dad is very competent at sword fighting and apparently administration. Okay, I think we're done on his good qualities, at least through the mid part of the book. I'm not going to go into the end part of the book too much. So the son, this new kid arrives, and he's telling him about the outside world, and it sounds, to this kid, the government's lying to them, and they don't know what's going on. The family has been lied to. And so it's this very interesting take that you have this clash of cultures, this being exposed, and the son starts to believe parts of it. And this is going to cause a lot of conflict with the dad. And of course, it's going to cause conflict for the dad later when, you know, enemy armies show up, and yeah, maybe you realize they were actually being lied to, or things weren't as rosy as it appeared. That's Sword of Kaigen. My goodness. Again, first half of this book, maybe even to about the 2/3 mark, absolutely smoking one of the best books I've ever read, or at least most enjoyable. I don't want to say the best. Let me take it back. Not the best. I saw a line. I'm going to steal this from Reddit, and apologies, I tried to find it. I couldn't re-find where I read it. Somebody said that it was a mess of a masterpiece. So that's Sword of Kaigen, M.L. Wang. Of course, we already mentioned all Americans this time. So M.L. Wang. And this was actually the 2019 winner of the SPF-BO, which is like the self-published awards, Mark Lawrence's awards. This was the winner of the best fantasy novel. And it clicks. I think so. Kind of a slow burn to get to success, but like when I ran into her at Gen Con, she's a pretty popular booth with people coming over and talking. And yeah, so she's got this one. The Wraithmark's coming out with it. I've seen it in print. I actually looked at Barnes & Noble today and didn't see it in print, but I did see it when last time we were up in Canada. I saw it at Chapters and Indigo. I think we saw them at both. Although I realize they're the same chain. They're just one bought the other. So they do have them around. And that was Sword of Kaigen. And that's a thick. Hold up a second. I didn't check how many pages this thing is. And there's a lot of source material, a lot of glossary in the back. That's why it's going to take me a second to find it. A lot of the definitions of the terms. This was a legit, let's see, 696 pages. I mean, that's a chunk. Oh yeah, beautiful edition too. Next up, this was a buddy read. And as part of the buddy read, I think we made a mistake. We were debating because this book is a prequel. However, you would probably think being a prequel, it comes before the main book. Hence, prequel. No, it's not a prequel. This is somebody's recollections of their past life. So the character is talking about what they did in the past but it actually takes place after the darn first book, which, so we read out of order, is what it really comes out. Tell people this, put it in the front. Yes. Daughter's War. Christopher Buehlman, again, U.S. I mean, we already went over that. This is the Berkham binding edition that came out. Let's see it. We got, see if there's any prettiness on here. Not a huge book. It's a sub 400. Yeah, it's just right about 400 pages. It is, well, let's talk about it. It's meant to be a prequel. Again, it's not a prequel. That it doesn't count as a prequel if all it is backstory about a character and some actions, but you keep referring to what happened in the book, the main book. So obviously you're writing this from a perspective of after the main book. Ergo, it should be like a 1.5, not a 0.5 or a book 0. This is the story of Galva. So if you read Black Tongue Thief, this, by the way, is the beginning of, or the second book published, but it's supposed to be book 0 in the Black Tongue Thief series. It's the story of Galva. She's going off to war, fighting the Goblin Horde, and it's her and her 3 brothers in their story. The world, super interesting world. Bloody, bloody war between the kingdoms of humanity and the absolutely terrible Goblin Horde. But the goblins do incredibly horrible, nasty things. They're just disgusting. And they are, like, they like to eat people. So not only are you can't surrender to this enemy. If you do, at the worst, at the best, they're going to come, like, cut your ligaments so you can't run away from them. And then make you stay there until which time they decide they feel like eating you or having you raise stuff for them, like children. Yeah, it's pretty horrible. This whole book, it feels like parts of the story of Malazan, where it is just, you're marching in an army and you're going to die. And your only real, or most of you are going to die, and your real hope is that you make it through. So some of you might live if you're lucky. And maybe you get to some big thing that can change it and change the course of the war. Galva's working with a special operations team. They've got a new weapon they're going to try to bring into the war. Hopefully it would work for them. Turned out, well, remember, you ought to read the book to see if it turned out. But it wasn't poorly written. Like, it's a weird thing. You ever read a book and go, okay, I mean, I get everything that's happening here. I understand the characters. I understand the setting. When is something going to happen? That's kind of how I always feel about this. I would have 2.5 starred the first 2/3 of this book. Maybe 2 starred it. Probably 2.5, because the writing is good. It's not funny, which is kind of odd for somebody, because Christopher Buehlman also used to go as Christoph the Insulter around the Ren fairs, and I've seen him. I used to go to the Ohio Ren Fest, and yeah, he lives in Ohio, and I'm guessing that's probably where it came from. And there was a Christoph the Insulter there. There wasn't a lot of that witty banter. I was like, I don't know, maybe he's stretching out a little bit. It really felt, a lot of the book felt like it was just backstory, like written out as a character describing things and being passive. Oh, there's a battle in the bay that she witnesses. How exciting, right? But last 100 pages, yeah, absolutely was what I was hoping for the whole book. So maybe it'd work out. All right, next up is a book that is absolutely read for Fantasy Bingo. I would not have picked this up without Fantasy Bingo, but it's probably more my biases coming in against the against that style of reading. I don't read a lot of short stories. It just hadn't worked for me in a long time. But we got Exhalation, Ted Chiang, his short story collection. He's got imaginative stories. He starts with a lot of really good concepts and then runs them. What's funny is, I think my take on it would be that some of the stories are too long. Like, why is this a 70-page story? This thing should have absolutely been a 30-page story, and it would have had a lot more impact. This guy wins awards everywhere because you can tell he comes up with great ideas. His prose is good. It's just sometimes it felt like it. To me, it felt like it ran long, which is funny considering how thin it is, right? It's barely 300 pages, which, for most of what I've been reading lately, especially in the last year, much smaller. Like that's like the third smallest book I've had. Let's talk about a few of the stories. I'm not going to talk about them all because, I mean, we don't want to take that much time. Merchant and the Alchemist Gate, first book right out of the time. It's an Arabic time travel, interesting time travel rules. He's got a lot about time in his items. And I think it's because if you start lurking into the themes he's exploring, there are some common themalities. And a lot of it is, can you affect change upon the bigger world, whether it's going back in time, affecting change otherwise, and then what are the effects if you do? So this Arabic time travel, interesting little book. And I thought it was funny that there's a character who's going along doing something and just gets caught up in essentially a loop to where, hey, you know, for the next round, you need to do this. It's like, oh, wasn't that Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? You know, make the keys appear, make the keys here, put the keys here. Boom, hey, I did it. One of those things. A life cycle of software objects. What happened to those characters once they get discarded? So a AI-based character system. You have AI characters that are like your, I don't call them pets. That's rude. Like the are sentient creatures at a higher level. Well, at some point, the money runs out. Nobody's coming to pay, so most of them get turned off. It's like that's dark. That's dank. Like this is the sentient AI version of the Tamagotchis. So hopefully, you know, I didn't actually have Tamagotchis, but for those of you who did, do you ever feel bad about leaving them? Should you? Because like they were your pet, they only were there because you were feeding them, and now you're not feeding them. Anyway, sorry, I gotta take these dark, but that's what you did. Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. This one had a great setup. Is part scam. I always like when there's alternate theories going on. So there's scam, there's people being guilted. It's part alternate reality with multiverses. And you're looking at whether or not the different decision versions of the same person can talk. So they would have a split. Like let's say there's a major event here and there's a car crash and somebody's gonna die. Did you die or did you live? Vroom, there's a split. And or did you see someone die? Like the person you're in love with dies. So now you're on this track when they died, and this one they didn't, and then they keep multi-splitting as there's splits further down. And they discover an ability to communicate with each other using these devices, very expensive devices that only have so much capability in them. But you can write to the person on the other side and help each other out. It's definitely an interesting concept. I really liked the concept in that story. Okay, that one may have ran a hair long, but I mean, you got to pull out heist, you got to set it up. So they had a good heist setup in it. Which, and a couple of them were just super short stories. Like, okay, that's nice. I used it again just for bingo, the short stories, because there's a bingo category, or one of the categories in bingo is 5 short stories or a collection. I used it for the collection, read it, it counts. A second 3.5 stars. So, right, Sword of Kaigen, you know, I banged to an average of 5. Daughters War and Exhalation, I gave 3.5 each. All right, one I had 2 days left in the month and decided, hey, I got this book in. I saw it. I saw one of the channels and somebody recommended it. And I ordered it off the author's website, which is a great way to do it. If an author has it on their website and it's not like horribly more expensive than buying it at the big stores, get it from them. Especially because, one, they get to see it, especially if they're a newer author or still working their way up the chain. Kind of drives them on. And this author gave me a really nice write-up to it. Tatiana Obeys Sistah Samurai. Oh, this is a good-looking book. Whoomp. Yes, it is short. It is 100 pages. She calls it a novella. In fact, she calls it a Champ Lu novella. And I had to go look up what Champ Lu is. I figured that was just like, I didn't recognize that it was a type of book, a type of genre blending. It really means to mix or to hash. And so in this one, what you have is a mix of, like, it feels like 1970s, like Foxy Brown, Black American cool, mixed with samurais. So you have an entire samurai order of the Sistahs. And the Sistahs are all, you know, got their big style. She's walking around, she's got her fro, always got to have her sunglasses, got her fros. You've got all the things that go with having a fro parent. I remember a coworker telling me about how much work, like his cousin did his would do his hair every night for him and braid it every night. I was like, man, it seems like a lot of work. But it's back to the having the look and trying to have that cool feel. And the gentleman who was telling me that, of course, long past wearing a fro himself, and you could tell he still liked that days. He did. And this is very interesting. I threw it out. I just figured, hey, it looked cool. The write-up looked cool. It looked fun. There's blood magic. There is sisters with all sorts of weapons ready to fly. There's a lot of terminology. In fact, let me get you to this. This is like one of the coolest things I think I've seen. A visual glossary to explain what the Japanese terms are. So if you're talking about her shoes, it's going to use the term she's using in the book, so you can just see it. I'm like, that's actually pretty awesome. There's some really funny other elements in here. Like there was a middle of the book stopped for advertisements, in-world advertisements, which I thought was awesome. A lot of swag, great voice. I enjoyed the voice quite a bit. I'm not sure how much I'd handle over like a 400-page book with quite that much in your face. Maybe. I mean, she's obviously a talented author, so she could probably pull it off. I liked it. But this character, one of the things I liked about this character, this month we had this. Masaki from Sword of Kaigen is a mother, and she's got a teenage kid, so she's old enough for that. And she already went to college, so it's not like she was a teen bride. You have Sistah Samurai. Our main character, is old enough that she's talking about her knees popping, her knees hurting, her hips popping. All right, that feels in, yeah. So older characters, which is nice. I like it, and it's not just all 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-olds. I mean, I know one of the reasons we all focus on the youngers is because, one, they will take risks, and it's believable. All right, nobody's believing I'm getting up and marching 200 miles anywhere. Like that, nobody's buying that. Whereas, younger character maybe. But two, I like that it's just you're relatable at different ages, and you can get some insights. I'm always remember talking Dave Wolverton, same person. He was talking about Harry Potter, and one of the big things is that it had characters at different age levels. And so different people who were reading it would latch on. The grandparents reading it to the grandkids would latch on to McGonagall and Dumbledore. And a mid-adult, probably, you're a wizard, Harry. And then the youngers would, of course, latch on to different characters at the younger age. I really like that. Anyway, back to the Sistah Samurai. It was just fun romp. I did it in a little over a day. I started late one night, read a couple chapters, and the next day just banged it out before football. Banged out before football yesterday. So, good story. 4 stars. An even 4. Was it perfect? No. Was it really good? Yeah, 4 stars is good in my book. And so, could it have gotten close to 4.5? I suppose it could have. Maybe with a little deeper subjects. Maybe not. You know what? Sometimes I shouldn't judge. It's a fun work of art. I liked it. That was the 4 physicals I read. I'll see them again. Oomph. You can definitely tell there was a downside. This one, by the way, I didn't mention it. 2014. Sistah Samurai was 2023. Exhalation is 2019. This one we read the whole month. So it was a slow burn. Talking about a slow burn before you get to stuff. We purposely were only reading so many chapters at a time so that we could discuss them. So kind of a buddy read style, slower pace, and do it over the month. Maybe that held it down a little bit. Because I'm seeing people giving it 4.5 5s. And I'm like, what did I miss? Obviously, these are people who read Black Tongue Thief first. And a book 4 in a series. The only audio I got done because I dove into book 10 on Malazan. But before that, book 4, The Gate of Feral Gods. Matt Dinniman, 2021 is book 4 of the Dungeon Crawler Carl. If you haven't seen it, Dungeon Crawler Carl series is just hilarious. It's funny. Like, I even picked up the hardback today just because I want to have the hardback for when the book 2 and 3 are coming out later this month. Or next couple months, I mean. And so I would want to have a mismatched set, even though I got the Kickstarter coming. Yeah, it's one of those things. But this is, this one didn't quite hit at the high level of the others. The others, I had them all either 4.5 or 5. Dungeon Crawler Carl is just funny, fast-paced, hilarious. This one still had fun, but I don't know, for some reason it just didn't click as much with me. Maybe it's because they're starting to do some more unfairness. This one is separate bubbles. Carl and team are in a bubble, and there's a limited number of crawlers in the bubble, and you've got to get all 4 pieces done or you're not getting out alive. And so you had to finish off one of your quads before you could even go try to do the other quad. And so working around, doing that. Also great pieces, right? A lot of fun still popping in. Looking forward to seeing what comes next. But yeah, this was a 4 to me. So that's the wrap. But before we go, okay, so we did have a 5. Another 5. I do love having my 5s. Cut 1 4, or 2 4s. 2 3.5. It's a good reading month. Let's go see the bingo. All right, as we do every month, it's fantasy bingo board time. If you haven't seen this before, our fantasy on Reddit does a bingo, which is a 25 square challenge. You got to do all of them. You can't just make a line across. So it's not really bingo. It's just using the board. 25 squares. You get all 25. You win. There's a hard mode, which makes them more difficult choices, which will drive you into doing more difficult books. And also you can do a version that's rocks or hero mode where you do some sort of review of every book, which is what I do on this channel. So I'm counting that. Let's go what I've got. So it started in April, in case you're wondering, because I've got 10 up on the board. Actually, all 4 physicals this month counted. And I didn't think that was happening. I didn't know the last one was going to count. Sword of Kaigen. Sword of Kaigen actually has dreams that are not actually, the hard mode is that they're just dreams. They're not like some manifestation or magic from the real world coming in. She has dreams. Sword of Kaigen. Dreams is off the board. Next one up. I was actually going to use this for dreams. Until which time, it stopped being a valid option. Boom. Daughter's War. Daughter's War, I think I said it during the review. It's really just, you're just surviving, trying not to die. Survival. And one of the examples, if you go look up on the official rules, one of the examples is surviving a war. This is surviving a war. Hard mode, no viruses or pandemics. There is, if you want to be pedantic, there is a pandemic that was mentioned, but that's when the horses were killed off. And that takes place a few years before this. So, I'm counting. That's not what she was surviving. So, survival's done. Man, we got a corner done down here. 5 short stories along the bottom. That's why I read it. And the hard mode is an entire speculative anthology or collection. You can too. Last one up. I didn't think it was going to count. I thought I was just reading this because this was cool. It was this great feel, right? The author had a really nice note when she sent the book. I mean, I was loving everything about it. She sent, even sent those. That's just awesome, man. I just absolutely adored this thing. Sistah Samurai is fighting demons that come from other worlds. Eldritch creatures. Things outside our realities. Things from other dimensions, perhaps. Eldritch creatures is what they're fighting. And as you read through it, it's like, oh yeah, that's what she's fighting. All right. That's not, a lot of times you think demons, you think like, oh, okay, you're talking like Christianity type demons or Eastern religion demons. Nope. So, Sistah Samurai marks that off. I've got 8 across the board marked down here. Next month could be a good one because I've actually lined up, and if my reading goes to plan, which who knows? There is a wedding in the month, so who knows how much I'm driving during it. But if I get it, I think we're gonna bang another 4 out, which would really put me in good position. Like I had 1 month which was low. I had a good reading month. I just didn't. There was a lot going on, and I didn't get anything for it done. But there you go, just fun. And don't let. Real fast, don't let things like this pressure you. If you feel like doing it, don't let it pressure you. The whole idea is just to get you reading more. And if it's not working or if it's not having fun, then the heck with it, right? It's all about reading and getting more read. All right, folks, thanks for coming along.